Right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of the CPRW podcast. I'm Colin from Colin's Punk Rock World and CPRW Records. Today, we're joined by the international members of our gang, Marcus, Brett, and Robyn. Before we get cracking, I just wanted to say thanks for all your feedback on episode 1. It's been nice to hear. I enjoyed that Three Dogs called it Nerdy Punk Rock Chat, which I thought was quite apt, and I kind of thought that's what I really miss from going to shows and stuff, just having these really nerdy talks about music, because I don't get that many other places. So this is basically, I think, what this podcast is going to be. Just want to see if Marcus, Brett, and Robyn want to say hi and introduce themselves.
Okay, sure, we'll go first. So I'm Robyn, married to Brett, and we live in Johannesburg, South Africa.
Yep. My name is Marcus, and I'm coming at you from America, more specifically Gatesville, Texas, which is a tiny town that I'm sure no one that's listening to this has ever heard of. It's about 7,000 people. So.
Oh,
Wow. We know Texas, though.
Yeah,
we've heard of Texas.
Yeah, you've heard of that.
King of the hill.
That's small state.
Yeah, it's tiny.
So on Friday, CPRW Records released our newest compilation. It was called To the Front. Robyn and Emma sort of did this one for us. I'll get Robyn to talk about it.
Oh, yeah. So Emma and I wanted to do something focused on kind of minority voices in punk, or like kind of, really, I suppose, getting away from just like your run-of-the-mill sort of, I suppose, male-fronted or male member-only bands, and just kind of shine a spotlight on some of those more sort of minority members. So To the Front had that focus, and it was so much fun to do. I know why you do the records now, because it's to reach out to people, and you think no one's gonna come back, no one's gonna want to do that, and everyone is so generous with all of their work that they've put into their music. They're so ready to send a song, do promo stuff. They just it was awesome. Working with Emma was really lovely, and she did such a fantastic artwork for the comp, which was very cool. So yeah, then when we put that out, and you were saying it's done so well, which is super, super great. And people on Instagram sharing it, people sharing it everywhere. It was super awesome to see. I think we're at a space, a time where we want to open punk up and be punk is about inclusion, about, fighting for the values that we really hold dear. And I think, that comp was a good time. It was a good time to put out that comp. So it's really nice to see it do well. So just, big thank you to all of those bands. Thank you to everyone who bought it. It was such a success. Just big thanks. It was very cool.
Yeah, that's raised, I think, over £200 for Imcan now, which makes it our biggest release that hasn't got over 100 songs on. So that's really cool to see.
Yeah, and I think IMCON was such a good charity to pick as well, because they're based in the UK, but they're like us, they extend all across the world, and they're really trying to do this work of protecting Black and minoritized girls everywhere as much as possible. So I think just really great to be able to support them as well.
Kind of feel like if
the success of the compilation proves that people care about this kind of thing and this kind of cause, which is awesome. That's really nice to see.
Yeah.
Okay. That's it. To the Front is still for sale, and all of our other comps are still for sale on our Bandcamp page. So go check them out. Thanks. So obviously the big news yesterday was Joe Biden winning and Trump finally going away. Marcus wanted to touch on that. Don't
let the door hit you on the way out. Ain't no one care how you feeling.
It was so nice. I was telling before we hit record, like I said, I live in Texas, which is a very red state, very conservative state. And so we had our own local people that we were pushing for. And I think since I've moved here, I haven't voted for anyone who's won anything. So so Tuesday night was not a great night. And then, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I just kept checking my phone and refreshing, and it's like looking good. But I was talking to my wife, who has not really been into politics until the last couple of years, when it's like, this is obviously not great. Like, something needs to change. And she was just like, after yesterday's news, it was like, it seems like it's just been so long since there's been something to feel hopeful about. And
100%.
yeah, and so it was like, can you give yourself permission to hope that this is going to turn out okay? Because like, we thought we'd know, they told us, like, hey, you might not know on Tuesday. And we're like, yeah, but I mean, we'll probably know on Tuesday. And we did. We're like, I know what you're saying. I know you're an expert, but like, we'll probably know, because that's what I want to know. I want to know, so I'll probably know. And then having that not be the case, and having it kind of drag out, and he's still not gone. He's still the president until January. So there's still a lot that could be done. Maybe I'm not sure what he's going to be like as a person who was fired.
Yeah.
It was just so. It was like the end of Return of the Jedi, where, like, I don't know if you guys are into Star Wars, but when the Death Star is blown up, and like all the people in all the different parts of the planets, they're all celebrating because it's gone. And obviously he's still not gone, because millions of people voted for him. And so I think that saying like, this is the end, is really like, no, like, what got us to this point? And hopefully there's a lot of reflection on everyone's side. I know that I'm one of the few people in my family who supported Joe Biden, who I don't think is perfect, and I don't agree with everything, but obviously the comparison between the two is just could not be more stark. Yeah. Like, so there's still work to do, but I think I think that's one thing that has been the theme, kind of going off of what Robyn was saying, how it's like, this is the time where, like, because I'll be completely honest, as a white person living in a rural area, like, not a lot of those policies affected me. Trump didn't hurt me that much. There's maybe one or two small things, but looking out and saying, okay, well, who's really impacted by that? And am I able to look outside of myself and my own circumstance and see what's best for the whole of our country, for all of the Americans, for all of the humans that come here? And that is something that, while no politician is perfect, because why would they be perfect? If they were, they would not be politicians. Who wants to be a politician?
I have often thought, like, to be a politician, especially to be like the president or the prime minister, you have to have some ego to think you're good enough to run a whole country.
Yeah. Well, and like, I think anyone who is like really smart would be like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go ahead and make money this way, or I'm going to live my life and be happy this way. So credit to all the people who are doing the work and trying to make it better, because it's a hard job. And I think that, now there's the hope. And so hopefully we can move forward and make progress in other areas, and, focus on just what's best for the whole, like what's helpful to the people who are marginalized, even just recognizing that there are people who are marginalized. I think that was the one, and I don't need to talk forever about this, but, during the George Floyd protest, that was when I saw something yesterday that said that was the big spike in voter registration, saying, all right, well, I wasn't going to vote before, but now because of this, people are saying that Black lives don't matter, that this is not important, that, and having that be part of the catalyst to get people involved. And it's sad that that's what it takes. Ideally, you would just already be involved. You'd already be looking out, but if that's what it takes, if we can turn that into a positive thing, then that's,
I suppose, and I think that's like the other thing that resonates with this victory, is it's like putting the good of everyone above just my comfort and my fear, like one person's fears and anxieties. Because I think there's a lot of things that have been driven by fear as well. And yeah, I think that's something that comes through, and when you see Americans making that statement, like, it means a lot. And everyone's kind of on their own journey and what made them decide ultimately, but I don't want to get into too much politics, but I did read an article earlier where the Democrats are trying to say, the radical, like the Black Lives Matter protesters in, those sort of entities in the party, the AOCs and her squad, they're going to rip the left apart because they're just they're too far left. They're too progressive. And AOC sort of came out and said, that's ridiculous. It was the Black Lives Matter protesters that really came to the polls. And you can't discount what that did for this election. So I think it's interesting that you bring that up, and as you say, like, Biden's not perfect, lots of work to do, but like ultimately it's a vote for hope and a vote to say, like, I'm not just going to think about what's good for me. I'm going to try and think about what's good for other people as well. And I think that's what everyone's feeling a little bit, is like, yeah. And at the end of this year, especially when it feels like every time you go out and you see someone not wearing a mask, or you see someone and you think like, that's a selfish action.
Yeah.
Like, oh, if people could just pull together.
Just think about your fellow human for a change.
Then to see people pull together, you're like, yes, that's what I needed. I needed that this year. So yeah, it was good.
I know for me, like obviously the UK, we have Mr. Johnson, for lack of better term, as our leader. So sort of seeing like the Americans rally around and get rid of Trump. I was trying to think, hopefully that will give us like the impotence that we can rally around and get rid of Boris Johnson, because that would be just marvelous. Because our UK voting has not gone to plan very often in recent history, with just bad decision after bad decision. So hopefully this is like the catalyst for better everywhere, not just in America, which would be, because people are good. There are good people, and they need to be pushed to the front to try and make things better, not the rich people who only care for themselves.
Yeah, for sure.
I just need 1 second.
Okay.
You can edit this out later.
I can't edit. Did you watch the last one? Robyn. Okay, now we have to fill. Robyn. Okay, well, the last time we did a podcast, we spoke about our listening habits during lockdown, and I was just curious to know what your guys' listening habits have been like this last 6-7 months.
Sure.
Well,
I think.
Okay.
You go, Marcus.
Let Brett talk. Brett talk for a little bit. I feel like I've been talking too much. You go, Brett.
I think my listening habits have been interesting. Like I've gone back to a lot of really nostalgic stuff, to like the kinds of things that got me into punk in the early years, like MXPX and Blink-182 and Newfound Glory, and those like old school pop punk bands that really got me into the scene. But at the same time, like also looking for new things and new ways to engage. So like the live streaming has been really good. I think in the beginning, when lockdown started, there was a live stream almost every weekend and almost every day, where we could switch on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram, and there was some band that we could watch, which was awesome. As like South Africans, we don't generally get to see these bands live all the time. So like seeing Make War and like Red City Radio and like and Cold Rex, like a bunch of bands that we've like would love to see. So yeah, I mean it's, and obviously as we've gone, we've watched a few others, but yeah, like my listening habits have been, I think I did go more towards the older, more nostalgic feeling stuff. Like I listened to a lot of MXPX. Like I think a lot of MXPX, like throughout lockdown. And I think it's just because it just made me feel like comfortable and comfort. And I just love Mike Herrera's voice and like his bass lines. It was. We
watched all their live stuff that they released.
Yeah, like it was like, yeah, he also had a live stream every Thursday or Friday night that I caught up with the next morning, because South African time. It was just, it just felt like this is comfort. This is what I need right now. So it was really good. Like I think it was just gravitating towards like what's going to make me feel good. And
what's your go-to MXPX record?
I think probably Life in General and their latest self-titled. I think between those two, those are my favorites so far. Yeah, and I also got into a lot of Slowly Going the Way of the Buffalo through lockdown. I think it was just like the chilled way of that album that sort of made me like want more of it. And like just his vocals, like the way that he sings and the way that he delivers his vocals and his songwriting is just so I don't know, comfortable. And I mean, I don't agree with a lot of their earlier stuff and their earlier ideals, but like it's just, I don't know, like
your happy place.
Yeah, it's the happy place. And it's kind of, and it's funny because like I don't even think MXPX would make my top 3 bands ever. Like if I had to name my top 3 bands, it would be Propaganda, No Use for a Name, and I don't know, like Bad Religion.
I was going to say probably Bad Religion.
Yeah.
You could top that for MXPX on one day.
Yeah, so I mean, it's kind of weird that like I listened to very little like Propaganda and Bad Religion and a lot of MXPX. It was weird.
Is that because like Propaganda and like Bad Religion are probably, the content's a lot heavier than MXPX.
Yeah.
So maybe at the moment you don't want like the heavy stuff. You just want something fun.
Yeah, you're going into like the lighter, like the less like thought-provoking.
I binged the new Anti-Flag album so hard.
Yeah.
There was a period of about 3 weeks that I could not listen to anything else. I just listened to that album. And then I went into a stage where I needed softer, more chilled things. So then it was like Happy Accident, Fresh. I have to out myself, all right? It's happening officially. The new Taylor Swift album really hit the spot for a while. It was a mood. It was the mood. Yeah, and then I needed to slow it down. And then lately also like more comfort. So back to a bit of Flatliners, back to a bit of Red City Radio, like some of my faves. That's my, Chris Cresswell's voice is my happy place. So like I hear what Brett's saying. Yeah. Marcus, what has it been for you?
For me, it's been like a little bit of going back to not to when I first started listening to punk, but if you checked out the Spotify playlist that the site puts up every month, I think I've tried to like not use any bands more than once, except Cobra Skulls. I think I put them on like every other month, and like it's a band that I was just like really like when I heard them when they first came out, I was like, okay, like this is cool, it's fine, I'll listen to it now and then. And then this year has been like the year of the Cobra Skull, where I just like I've listened to all their records. I just hit play from the top and it just goes all the way down. I listen to every song. Like I've been really into them. It's like a lot of political stuff, a lot of just like anger. And that's been how I've kind of addressed that. Because if you know me personally, like I'm not like an angry person. Like it's not like I teach first grade. I teach 6-year-olds. So like you have to have like a certain disposition to deal with like 26-year-olds for 7 hours a day. But like while I'm driving, like just kind of be able to kind of, it's almost like you're talking to someone who like sees things the way you see them and is frustrated by the same things that you're frustrated by. So that's been like a little bit of a, like almost like seeing a psychiatrist, just listening to those lyrics and being like, yes, like I'm mad about that too. Like I don't like that either. So I've done that. I've listened to, I don't listen to a lot of rap, but I have been listening to the new Run the Jewels record, which I really like. The lyrics there are really on point too. And if you saw anything about the state that one of the states that was moving to flip for Joe Biden, it was Georgia, and that's where Killer Mike is from, and he's a big activist there, and so that was he has a lot of really really on point lyrics for this moment. So I've been listening to Run the Jewels and Black Thought, another really good lyricist. And then just some of the other, like Good Riddance is probably one of my first like really big, I listened to like a couple like bands like locally in San Diego where I grew up in California. getting into the scene. But Good Riddance was the first one that was on Fat Records that I was like, ooh, even though at the time I like didn't get into lyrics, I was like, all right, I mean, they hate the government, but like whatever, like the music sounds good. And going back and being like, oh yeah, like, man, that was a long time ago, and like these things are all still pretty relevant. Yeah, so that was so probably Good Riddance and Cobra Skulls, and then the Run the Jewels record has been I when I want to choose from like a punk rock, I have like a whole portfolio of things I can listen to. When it comes to rap, I just have a couple that I really focus on, and so I've probably listened to the new Run the Jewels record more than any record this year. I'd probably say.
Weren't Good Riddance meant to play Fest?
Yeah, they're still scheduled.
Okay,
they're
great.
scheduled for Fest 19.
Yeah. Can we let's all just meet at the Good Riddance set? I think that'll be good.
That is a band that I.
Cobra Skulls are playing as well next year, hopefully. So, and they're a band that I saw they got announced, and I was like, yes, please happen.
Yeah, we've not seen either of them.
Good Riddance is on the bucket list. Yeah, it has not been checked off yet. So
yeah, I was actually supposed to go to see Good Riddance on New Year's, like when I was a kid, when I was like 18, and then I skipped it because I was hanging out with this girl that I liked, and she wanted to go do something else, and I haven't regretted because I ended up marrying her, but take
that back.
All right.
But it was one of those things where like it's a good thing it worked out, because otherwise like I haven't seen him yet, and that would really eat at me not being able to see him.
I've seen him just to rub that in. I've seen him
twice.
Thanks
so much. Yeah.
Okay, so if you want to know my listening, we covered that last week, so go back and watch the other episode.
Okay, all right, noted.
It's basically like what Real basically said was just like old like nostalgic stuff, just again because like you said, comfort.
Yeah,
I like obviously doing the site, I have trying to focus in on a lot of new stuff as well, but when I'm not writing reviews and I have like leisure time listening, it's like my favorite songs or just massive Spotify playlists of just classics. But so in the week, I went on the Instagram and learned how to do Insta questions, which was annoying. And I sort of said, like, what thing would you like us to talk about on the podcast this week? And I got 3 replies. Emma just said, vegan chocolate, because there was a picture of vegan chocolate in the picture. So she was helpful. Jack,
shout out to vegan chocolate.
Oh, yeah, it's nice, to be fair. So I got a message from Just Say Nay, like UK ska punk band. I'm going to assume it was their lead singer, Jack. He just said cats. So anything you want to say about cats?
Cats are awesome.
Cats are amazing. They make your life better, particularly when you are locked inside your house and can't go anywhere.
Yeah. They make it.
I don't want to be that person, but we got 2 puppies during quarantine. That was the thing for our kids that really kind of got them through that long period of not going anywhere. So nothing against cats, but
dogs are excellent as well. 11 out of 10 would recommend. Get a pet, treat it well.
Yep.
Adopt.
Okay,
get in on that.
There you go, Jack. Hopefully that suffices your cat chat. And then Dan number 2, he asked what our favorite ever gigs were. So who wants to go first? Because the panic in Robyn's face right now.
All right. No. So usually I say it's the gig in Australia.
Bouncing Souls, Hot Water Music.
But I'm actually going to pick. Okay, so very few bands come down to our little spot here at the bottom of Africa. But we have had a few make the trek. And I'm going to go ahead and say Mad Caddies, when they toured here.
They played Gentlemen for us as well. That was amazing.
It was just beautiful. It was just, everyone came and they had, we have some big ska bands here. From Joburg, we have Fuzzy Gish, which is like, I always say it's like going to punk church when Fuzzy Gish play. They opened, in fact, they're opening for, that's for NoFX, that's not for Mad Caddies. But one of NoFX's live shows is actually just on Spotify now. But it was just so good. It was just such a party. So I'm going to say Mad Caddies playing Johannesburg, I don't know, 10 years ago. maybe
2007 or 2000.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it was 2007 or 2008.
Close second to a show we saw in Australia. I don't know what Brett's gonna pick though.
Oof. Yes, it's a tough call. Marcus, you go first. I'll think about it some more.
Well, I think probably the it's a hard one to toss up. I know I answered. I think this is a question on the site, like under your bio, like what your best show was, and I think that I said Rocket from the Crypt in San Antonio, and Rocket from the Crypt is a band from San Diego that I love, but I never saw when I was there. Like it just never, when I lived there, I just never worked out. I never saw them. And then they broke up and it was like, okay, well, I guess I'll never see them again. And then they reunited and they played a show after South by Southwest, which is kind of close to where I live. I live closer to Austin than San Antonio, but they announced a show in San Antonio. And so I took the day off work and I drove down there. It's like a 3-hour drive. And which is not long compared to other places I've driven for shows, but they were the best live band that I've seen. So even though I went by myself because I didn't have, because there's not really a lot of people I know in real life here in Texas that are into that stuff, but that was the best live band. As far as like the best like show experience, I went to when I was in high school. There was like an all-day festival on a weekend, and I don't know how popular they are in your areas, but Unwritten Law was the headliner, and like Phoenix TX also played.
Oh wow!
And
Yes.
Trying to think, like Sprung Monkey. I'm not sure how famous any of these bands are for where you are, but and there are a bunch of other local bands played, and that's where that was probably the show that I was like, oh, there's other local bands that I've never heard of that are also good. There's a band called Convoy that was almost like an alt country band, but they were really good live, and that kind of got me into them. And then a band called Death on Wednesday, which is like a punk band, and they were my first like local music obsession. I saw them at least a dozen times after that, and it was like looking at the lineup, I was like, well, I want to go see Unwritten Law. They played last. And they were great. They played like a Fugazi cover. They played Waiting Room. They played everything. It was awesome. But before that, I was like, I don't know, Death on a Wednesday. Should we even go see them? That sounds like a dumb name. And then I thought it was like, whoa, like that, and like the place was like, it was like not even a quarter of the way full, and it was like in the morning. And I was like looking around. I was like, are you guys listening to this? Like this is awesome. So that was the first time that I was like, oh, I should really try to find like other bands that are in this area, because it's not just the ones that you can find like at a record store that have stuff that's out. It's like there's other bands that are doing other stuff. So that was like a big turning point for me, was listening to Death on Wednesday at that show and being like, oh yeah, this is good.
Nice.
Oh, sheesh.
Yeah, Brett, go. I'm still thinking.
Is it?
Yeah,
Nice?
no, mine is so hard because I don't remember what I put on the site on the bio. But
I picked one that I didn't put on my bio.
Like I'm thinking about it now, and it's like seeing No Use for a Name in Australia was like big for me.
And he went early. So
and I got to meet the band.
So he just pulled up next to their van and they were getting out with all their stuff.
It was like I just fanboyed completely. Propaganda at Pre-Fest was like amazing. Like
so amazing that he injured himself.
Yeah, I injured myself.
He twisted his ankle. He spent the entire night I got ice from the hotel and I just put it on his ankle, and I went to the 7-Eleven and got all the ibuprofen I could buy. That's how good that Propaganda set was.
And Kid Dynamite at Fest 10, I think that was. I mean, it was
like
when we announced when we said we would go to Fest 10. And there were like a few bands that were announced that had members, Painted Black, Lifetime, and None More Black. Like all of the members of Kid Dynamite were there. And it was like, oh, will they play? Will they play? And then they were announced, and it was a dream come true. I don't
know if you guys have been at a fest where you have the Florida Theater as a venue, but it gets very, very full. And when people move around in it,
oh man, it was brutal.
It's dangerous.
So amazing.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's so hard to choose. And then pretty much every gig in South Africa has been like, I've not had a bad one in South Africa.
No, because people, when someone comes, they just so happy that someone's here. So we just have the best time. We just party. It's
Yeah.
good times. Yeah.
Even, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, those are my three.
I think pick No Use for a Name. That's a good one.
Okay, No Use for a Name.
Well decided, Robyn. Okay, my one. What we got? I want to say like Do It Together Fest that we did earlier this year, but I feel like that's just an obvious one. It was really good, because like all my favorite like bands were there who I'm friends with, and just Lightyear, who are my favorite band ever, and they played my birthday party, which was lovely. But I kind of think, as for like a thing of festivals as well, I think Booze Cruise in Hamburg last year was incredible, just as an experience to go to another country where what was more like European bands. We don't get many European bands come to the UK because of, I don't know what it is, but in the UK we care about obviously UK punk and American punk, but we for some reason we assume punk is only to the west of us, and but there's just so many really, really good bands in Europe, and we got to go see loads of them, and then loads of bands like Bong Mountain or Western Settings, who like they're sort of coming up in the UK punk scene, but or the US punk scene even, but aren't massive yet.
Yeah,
and they were over there, so we got to see all of them, which would normally you'd have to go to like fests and stuff. So, and just the whole atmosphere, like seeing the German like fans were. Because I know in the UK, like, people don't always get to gigs for the opener, but obviously when the headline's there, people care. But here, like, not only were people there early for every band, they were enthusiastic for every band, which is not something you really get. Because I think here there's a bit of we're a bit too cool for school kind of vibe. Until there's,
I think it's the same. It's the same here. Like a lot of the time, like the venue will be fairly empty, or there'll be only a few people around,
for the opening.
like at the bar for the opening bands. And that's one of the really nice things about like Fest and MPF. I mean, obviously the only two international festivals that we've experienced so far, but like almost every band that plays, like their fans really come together and they're there for the band, and it's just really cool to see. Like, even if it's at a show at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon and people are hungover or tired from the night before, and they're still there to support. So
I'll say at MPF in particular, actually, we noticed that.
I like always have a stuck at that Forever Unclean set. That was what's the name of the venue? Breadshed or Zoo? I don't know if it's changed its name now. One of them. But this must have been about one, or Cat. Hi, Rocky. This must have been about 1 or 2 in the afternoon, like first band on. The venue, I reckon, is a good 500 capacity. Like Forever Unclean are quite a small band from Denmark. They've got a bit of a following in the UK, but they're not huge. But we were right down the front. I think towards the end of their set, I just looked behind me and the room was full, and it was just such a nice thing to see.
Yeah,
it was very cool. Yeah,
especially for a band who have come over from Denmark, where, like, as I say, European bands don't get as much recognition as they maybe should.
It's weird because they're so close. Well, it seems like it's so close
to us. It's
much
very
closer
close.
South Africa.
Yeah, I think for the UK, because we're not a very big country at all. Like, far away for us is 2 hours. So when Marcus was saying about driving 3 hours for a show, I can't think of.
Yeah, respect for that. Like, the dedication. That's legit.
Real, yeah.
What are curfews like there? Are they?
Well, I mean, like with those places, like when I went and saw Rocket from the Crypt in San Antonio, I ended up, show ended like at 11:30 or 12. Maybe it was midnight, and so then I had to drive back. I ended up stopping like at a hotel parking lot and just sleeping for a couple hours, like halfway there. Or I saw Jawbreaker. No, I saw Menzingers up in Dallas, which is another like 2.5 hour drive. And luckily I have a brother that just moved there, so I was like, hey, I need a place to stay after the show because I'm not going to be able to, like, to be there and do what I want to do at the show and then drive back another 2 hours without crashing my car. So yeah, it's they don't end early when you drive far away. So you got to find some way to.
Now we have that issue, like, because we live in Bedford. If you don't know, it's about an hour north of London on the train. And the venue we usually go to, New Cross Inn, which is the best venue in the country, is in South London. So that's maybe another 45 minutes getting across London. So if we go to a gig, it finishes about 11, 11:15. We usually don't get home until sort of 1:30 in the morning, just because of the trains are really slow coming back. And then like we have to then go to work at like 8 o'clock. So this has been like maybe the one of very, very few positives of 2020 and lack of gigs, in that I've actually slept this year. I kind
Your
of feel,
body thanks you.
when gigs are a thing again, it's going to be a struggle. But it's also going to be a case of making up for lost time, so we'll have to go.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no excuse.
No, I can't. I think the next gig I go to, I will cry. I think I'll cry through the whole thing.
What was the last live gig that you guys went to?
We covered this last week, Brett. Have you not been listening?
No.
My last one was Barstool Preachers at New Cross with a band from Leeds called Nosebleed and a band from Bristol called I Destroy, and Lucius, who's the lead singer of Call Me Malcolm, opened with a solo acoustic set, which was really good.
Oh, okay.
Ours is topical because we saw the Dumpies from Texas.
Yeah, the Dumpies.
All right. For me, it was in Austin. They do the first because like Austin's like a pretty big college town. That's where the university is. It's just a huge town, anyways. But it's kind of dead. The first week of January, while a lot of the students are still like celebrating like the Christmas holiday with their family, and they're not there, and so it's a little bit dead. And so the first week of January, all the venues that are there, and there's a lot of them, have a free week where they just have a bunch of local bands that play, and it's free. And so I saw like 4 different bands play at 3 different venues, and it was all walking distance. So I saw Slow-Mo Drags, which is an Austin indie band. Nothing that was punk, but I saw. There was. I'm trying to think what the other one was called though. I saw a couple bands, and I remember the lockdown happened right before South by Southwest, which I had planned to like take a day off of work and be there all day. I was going to see Warriors. I think Face to Face was also gonna make an appearance at some point. So I had everything all lined up, and I was like looking at the calendar, and I was like, okay, I mean, maybe
it'll be all right. Yeah.
I think I've been thinking that for every festival this year of like what's been in our calendar. Blues Cruise will be all right. Level Up Festival will be all right. Fest will be all right. And it's not happened.
Not so much.
No. Yeah. Unfortunately not.
But at least we stopped crossing stuff out of the calendar now, so it's not just like every time now.
Yeah.
There's that. But okay, so the main thing we were going to talk about this week was because we've got like Marcus from Texas and Robyn and Brett from Johannesburg here. Is talk about the scenes where they live, because I feel like especially about the South African scene. We like the UK. We don't know anything about that. So I thought it'd be interesting to hear about that.
Sure, so much pressure.
Again, we're the experts. We're just still going to talk.
Yeah, yes. Yeah.
Where'd you go?
I guess the scene, from my experience, or in my opinion, it's very eclectic. I think back in the day when I was getting into punk, it was when Green Day and Offspring and Blink, they were super popular on MTV, and when they still played music and
on MTV.
Yeah. And it was so. I mean, a lot of our bands sort of gravitated towards playing like that pop punky, like Southern California sound. We had like Tweak and Room 3 and like a whole bunch of like New World Inside. They all sort of like went towards that like sound. But metal has always been quite big. I think the one thing about the South African scene is like we don't have a lot of one thing. Like we don't have a lot of metal bands. We don't have a lot of punk bands. We
a
don't
lot of
have
ska.
We don't have a lot of ska. So generally, like shows in South Africa, they're always
A mix.
super mixed. Like you never get like, I think even the Dumpies, we had like Domestic Violence, who were an awesome like female fronted hardcore band, and then
Monday Morning Justice,
who are like folk punky.
Yeah, they're getting a bit more like flatlinersy.
Yeah. And then like the Dumpies, who are like straight up punk. Yeah, and I mean, like every band that's sort of come over to South Africa from overseas, generally like it's the same big bands that would open for them. We would have Hoggity Hog in Cape Town, Half Price in Cape Town, Durban. I can't really think who would be there, but I mean,
we used to have Low Profile in Durban, but I think they've split up.
Yeah, like in Joburg it would always be Fuzzy, so you'd always have like the same bands opening for the internationals. And like when Gyroscope came, Gyroscope were like a small Australian indie alt rock band who like I really liked. They toured in like 2007. Like our big band Fuzzy Gish, who Robyn mentioned earlier, like they actually closed the show because nobody knew Gyroscope, and I think the only way people would stick around was if Gyroscope played first. Yeah, it's like, it's a weird, it is a strange scene. I think the scene is branching out a little bit. It is very white male, and it has been since I can remember. And yeah, but I think it is changing, but very slowly. Like we are getting bands from the lesser known areas like Soweto, and like the female fronted bands are coming out a lot more. And it's not just like, I think the female fronted like hardcore bands, which is different. Like people don't expect that kind of thing, which is very cool. Yeah, so I think our scene is very small. Our scene is very tight. There's only a few people. Like if you go to the shows and so that, like I still see people at the shows that I go to now, that we go to now rather, that like have been going to shows for years. Like I see the same people. It's
becomes a family.
It really does become a family, and I think Robyn and I have never like fully gotten like into the family, but we've always been there.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's like they probably don't know us, but we know them. But it's maybe just because of my
we're shy
personality of, you know, like shying away from humans.
No, we do. I mean, I think we're not playing in bands, so we don't get into like, you know, being at every single show that everyone is playing, but it's definitely a close-knit group, and I think we definitely like show up to support.
Yeah, we always do.
But yeah, I mean, everything Brett said, it's eclectic and small, and I think sometimes, like I think sometimes when people come visit, you know, they'll be like, oh, it's like medium, and we're like, no, like this is us, like we've really, like we've come out, you know, we're just a small place.
Yeah, we've got I think we've got so many, like we're not a big country, I guess, but we are spread out. So I think like people come to like Johannesburg, which is a big city, but they'll only get like a couple hundred people at their show. And it's because like that's all of the people in Joburg. That is
Joburg.
Like that's Joburg. Like it's not, you're not going to get more than that. So yeah, it's interesting, but I like it for the most part.
I think the last thing I'll say is, as much as we're small, there's still like Joburg is kind. I mean, I don't want to discount Durban because Durban is its own creature. You just don't
know it that well. Yeah.
But there's Durban and Cape Town, and there's Joburg and Cape Town, and they're a little bit in rivalry. And sometimes bands will emerge in Cape Town that we like won't know about for a long time. So it's like, Colin, I think you were like the Piss Ups, and we were like, who are they? And then you're like, they're from Cape Town, and we were like, oh yeah,
yeah.
You know, so. And sometimes you get a little bit like myopic in your scene, which is for us is like Joburg, Pretoria. But to be honest, like the people we know are just so lovely.
I think if you guys ever came to South Africa, it would be like we would have to make sure that it was at a time that Fuzzy Gish was playing, because that is when the South African or the Joburg punks come out.
Or we'd have to go to a Fokhof Polisie car in Pretoria.
Yeah.
So that's an Afrikaans band, so it means fuck off police car. And wow, the Pretoria crowd.
Yeah, they love that band.
I can't explain it. It's an experience. It is an experience. It's really good. But yeah, small, eclectic. Come visit because we'll love you. That's all I got to say.
If any bands are listening,
yeah,
please
come.
Am I talking about like the American punk scene, or
I'll talk
like
about Texas
It's a big
rather
place.
than just talk about, I guess, Texas punk scene. And
well, Texas is like not really like Austin has a huge music scene, like and it's very, very eclectic. It's like a very diverse. I think that's what's funny about Texas is huge. There are like 254 different counties,
wow.
and it's in 2 different time zones.
Wow.
So, like when you enter Texas from the west side, you are closer to the Pacific Ocean, which is 3 states away, than you are to the east side of Texas.
Wow.
So
Wow.
so like it's big, and like it's so varied. Like it's obviously like very rural. There's lots of rural areas like where I live, and where there's no punk scene at all. There's not really even like a music scene. It's just people that live here, doing their own thing. There's not any venue. Like there's not a venue within like 35 miles of where I live. Like there's maybe some like in Waco, which is like a college town, but it's like a Christian university, and the bands that play there aren't really anything that anyone on this site would probably listen to. I don't listen to them, but Austin, like Dallas, Houston has like, they definitely have their own scenes. Austin is really eclectic. It's really diverse. It seems like they just like interchange like players. Like there's people I know who are like, oh yeah, I play drums for like this punk band here, and I also play bass in this jazz band over here. And like it's just like they pride themselves in like not being constrained by a genre. I lived there for like a summer, and I knew a couple people that were in different bands, and it was like, how are you in this like swing band on one night playing at like hotels, and then you're also playing at these like dirty hole in the wall places. It's called the Hole in the Wall, like is the name of it. On like the next night. So anyways, it's really eclectic. In Texas, I think probably some of the more well-known bands are on like Dirt Nap Records. It's like Bad Sports, the Marked Men, a lot of like garagey type rock that would still be punk, but it's not, it's a lot different from like the Southern California punk that I grew up on, 1,000 miles away in a couple other states. So there's, it's eclectic. There's like, I don't really know that there's a lot of, I know like when Chuck Reagan or Ted Leo have toured here, I don't know that there was really even, like there might've been like one opening band, but I don't know. I think usually they kind of brought their own support because there's not a lot of like specifically punk, bands that are in Austin. It's more like, oh yeah, this is like, this is like, if you like this band, then it's like punk Indian, and this is like the punk metal band. They're always like adjacent to something else, and so there's not. And I'm an outsider because I am shy, but I also just I don't live close to it anymore. Now that I've had to buy a house and have a career and raise my family, it's harder to live in the bigger cities. But they have a lot going on, and there's usually something. It's harder to find. It's not like you can just pinpoint like a specific like location, but like the Mohawk, a lot of bands on like Red River Street. Or Red, I don't even know if it's street, Red River Boulevard, but there's a couple of different really good venues. Mohawk is the best one in Austin, and probably in the state, in my opinion, too, of the few places that I've been to. So they always put on something good, but it's gonna more like test you, like, oh, this is cool, but you gotta kind of earn it. You gotta listen to it and like, oh, okay, yeah, I guess I do like this. It's different than what I'm used to. So there's a lot of variety here in the Austin. And across Texas.
Just trying to think of Texan bands that I'm aware of. Like I got the Palantines. They're really good. And Destroy Orbison, I think, are from Texas, but I might be wrong. They're on a split with the Palantines, so I'm just assuming.
We know the Dumpies.
We know the Dumpies. We've seen them. They were really
We've
good.
seen them live. They were very good live.
That was a good show.
I'll have to look at them because I haven't. That's one that I hadn't heard of yet. So shame on me.
Nice.
Who knew?
Yeah, wow.
I was just thinking when you're describing how big Texas is, it's probably bigger than England.
It is.
So
it is.
Yeah, probably.
how could I was like, what? Like, I was just say, I just talk about the Bedfordshire scene. That's Bedfordshire scene, and so we have a ska band called Easy Dread, who sort of are from sort of Luton / Bedford, which are like two neighbouring towns. And then from Milton Keynes, which is another sort of neighbouring town where Emma's originally from, we had Capdown comes from there, who are sort of one of the biggest UK sort of ska-core bands ever, and probably one of the most influential and loved and much missed. And there was Anti-Vigilante, who are also from Milton Keynes, who are a similar sort of sound to Capdown. And their saxophone player / lead singer now is in a folk duo. His name is Hope in High Water, and that's essentially the bands from where I live. So we spend most of our time in London, where there's loads and loads of bands who we cover all the time. And I'm not going to list them all because you're probably aware of them.
Yeah.
London.
We've seen the sites.
Yeah. Cool. Well, that's topic 1 covered. Hopefully,
Nice.
Go team. Hopefully folk have learned something from that. My next topic, which I thought of not long before we really started recording this, was like, what are your thoughts on people filming at gigs, like with mobile phones rather than professional filmographers? Yeah.
Like filming or just like taking photos?
Like this.
I don't mind photos so much. It's when you're there behind your phone for like a whole set. It's like,
I think I'm going to take a middling position as someone who does not have access to many shows and who spends a lot of time on YouTube looking up live performances and then like using my imagination.
People, yeah.
So I appreciate when people do like video live performances, because obviously it means that I can get a sense of what that's like, and especially if I'm going to see a band live a bit sometimes. But also having been at a show and, you know, I'm short, I'm small, and someone's standing up there and they've just got this going, and it's like, it can detract from the experience, definitely. And I'll just add to that, the men at shows who are medium to tall, who without fail,
medium to tall.
well, and not even just in front of me, like not a normal like distance in front of me, like against my face, they will stand in front of me, like move in front of me, and it's like, dude, where do you think I'm looking? Like, and you know, particularly as a smaller person, sometimes I'm gonna go like forward, but I'm small, so I'm not gonna be like up front a lot. So I'm gonna move a little bit back, because that's where everyone is moving, as they should, have a good time. But then people will then come and stand in front of me because I'm standing a little bit back, and that can be a bit annoying. So I'm just adding in on that. But yeah, I'm a little bit like, I think if it's maybe done from the right spot, I understand why people want to, like, you know, have the memory of the thing or record the thing.
Like, I don't know. I feel like when we go to shows, like I'll take a photo or a couple of photos that I think will look cool, but to post on Instagram or remember the moment. But after that, like, or once the photo is done, like I want to be in the moment.
Yeah,
and that's mostly probably because we don't get to live that moment very often. So we don't get to see like those kinds of bands all the time. So it's kind of like, I want to be here. I want to experience what I'm seeing like fully. So I don't know if it is maybe a privilege thing of, oh yeah, I can just record this band. I would like to know like how many people that record their like those live shows on their mobile phones, like how many people actually go back and watch it.
Yeah.
Like it's weird. Like Although I do get Robyn's point around going to watch a YouTube video of some like crazily badly filmed like live set from some band that you've never seen live, and it's like, this is my only way I can ever do this. I have to watch this.
I don't think that's just us.
Yeah, generally the sound quality is not great.
No.
That's why I brought it up this year, because in the past I was very, very much live in the moment, put your phone down. But now obviously gigs have been taken away. I am so thankful for those people who have been filming. It was like, I remember doing fun things like this.
Yeah,
it's great.
Especially for lot of the smaller shows like what we've been to. It's like the only time like I've got to see lots of my friends. It's like, there's like Paul, there's Mike, there's Sarah. It's like, they're my friends. I remember them. So that's always quite nice.
Yeah, I think there's a way to do it without like detracting. Obviously, if you just like go there and post up in the front and you're just like filming it the whole time, it's like, why did you bother? Like, if you're just gonna stand there and not enjoy it, but I think that there's definitely a way to do it, so that it's like not in someone else's way, and that you can just. I think that's, as a society, we probably have that desire where it's like, we have to. You didn't vote unless you posted it on Instagram with your sticker. You didn't go to the show unless you had the proof that you were there. And so I think that's just part of it. I think that I think it's hard. Do you want to remember the moment from your head, from what it was like, or maybe you do, because there have been times where I'm scrolling my phone. I'm like, like that Rocket from the Crypt show that I knew that I would never see him again. Like, you bet I recorded some of those songs just for like a little bit, not for very long, and then I got back into it. But especially now that they're not touring again, and no one's touring anymore. So it's like, it's been nice to go back and be like, that was awesome.
I kind of feel like if you are going to film it, don't stand at the front, sort of stand towards the side, out of people's way, or at the back of the room, because phones have zoom features. So you don't need to be right underneath the guitarist, and you'll get a better video if you're sort of further back.
It sounds better in the back,
Yeah.
I think the only two shows I've ever like even attempted to record were when I went to Australia without Robyn and Less Than Jake played.
Oh no, he made me cry.
And I recorded like a little bit of Less Than Jake playing. That was before Fest 10 even. So Robyn hadn't seen Less Than Jake at that point.
Yeah, I was very sad. He thought he was doing a very romantic thing.
The second time was when I saw Bad Religion for the first time. I recorded a little bit of Bad Religion.
And then Brett cried.
And and I sent that to Robyn as well.
Yeah.
What, you crying or Bad Religion?
No, Bad Religion.
I remember like my friend Scouse, he went to a Reading festival, which is like one of the biggest festivals in the UK. And they have like a punk stage and then like the bigger stage with all like, where like the mainstream, like at the time was more rock artists. Not like that anymore, but the Descendants were playing, like headlining the punk stage. And he literally popped his head into the tent, filmed about 30 seconds, sent it to me, and then left and went to watch Muse on the big stage. And I was so angry at him.
Why would he do that?
Well,
that is me.
He's not like a big punk fan. He just knows I really, really love the Descendants. And at the time, I'd never been able to see them. I sent him a few swear words and told him what I thought of him that day.
For a couple of Descendant songs though.
Well, I know, but it was also about 10 years ago probably. So like camera quality on your phone for recording in a field.
We have an interesting story about the Descendants, because Brett lived in Australia for a time and his dad still lives there. We went to go visit, and there was a festival where the Descendants were playing.
No Sleep Till.
Yeah, so we were like, we go. But Milo was obviously sick.
Yeah, he had played all of the shows like around Australia, and then arrived in Brisbane and had no voice.
He had no voice. He tried so hard. So we saw such a unique show because we saw Fat Mike sing.
We saw Matt Skiba, Fat Mike,
yep.
Jay from Friends of Rom.
Yep, they all came on stage to sing all the Descendants songs.
It was amazing.
It was so we were like,
beautiful.
It's not what we wanted to see, but it was so unique that you couldn't be mad. It was cool. Yeah.
That's really cool. I have a bit of a cool Descendants story that you've reminded me of. Like last year, maybe year before, they were playing in London, and Emma's not a massive Descendants fan, but I'm out with my buddy Craig, or Sea Rage. And we went, he's the biggest Descendants fan I know. And so we went to get some food first, and we were walking to the venue, and I just sort of saw Milo ride past on a bike. And Craig was looking at his phone at the time and missed it. And I just thought, that's just brilliant because of that. Like,
that sucks.
When I get old, and the lyrics going to go off my head now, but it's like, will I still ride my bike and get on my bike and ride around town? And there he was doing it. And I was like, this is the best thing I've ever seen in my life.
Perfect.
And Craig missed it because he was looking at his phone.
And
that's terrible.
You see,
Yeah.
and we come right back to phones, don't we? And missing out on the moment.
But just watching them live and see, especially Bill Stevenson, because obviously Bill's been through a lot, like with his health in like recent years. And just seeing how happy he is on stage playing those songs. Like he came to the front of the stage for the encore and was just, I don't think I've ever seen one person been happier about anything. It was just so nice to see. I love Bill Stevenson.
I love Bill Stevenson as well. I love pretty much every record produced in his studio as well.
Yeah, I think I did a top 10 records that have been done at the
you
Blasted
have,
Room, and it was so difficult.
Yeah, that's tough.
It was so hard, but good fun because, like, how much they've put out was ridiculous. Especially like ska stuff they've done as well. And when you think of Bill Stevenson, I don't think I'd naturally go, hey, he'd put out a ska record, or he'd help make a ska record. Which I think just, again, shows the ability the man has as a producer.
Yeah, the Descendants, all talented.
Have you got a Descendant story, Marcus?
I think that was another band that I was supposed to, like, I was hoping to see this year, and I haven't. So thanks for reminding me.
Sorry.
Yes.
Okay, well, this is our topics. I don't know how long we've been talking for because I, again, forgot to set a timer.
Probably about an hour.
Oh, that's a good time then. So we probably should have done this last week, but I didn't think of it again until 15 minutes before this one. Because Colin's Punk Rock World, our sort of main focus is recommending like new music to people. So that should be a part of this podcast. So we're going to recommend a album we've been enjoying recently. And who wants to go first?
I'll go. I guess I didn't mention it, but one of my habits during lockdown, and I guess kind of for this year mostly, is I go on a Bandcamp. I would say at least every other day, but maybe more often. And I just like click on, like, you can search for bands, and so I just click on like punk and like new arrivals, and it has like all the new records that have been released that day. And so I found a lot of as you could probably tell, there's not much of a scene where I am specifically, so that my scene is now Bandcamp, and I just try to find bands from anywhere. And I found a lot of really good bands this year from Spain. And so there's a band from Spain called Mundo Beta, and it's all in Spanish, and I don't think that it's on a label, just self-released. But they have like a really big, I do speak Spanish, so that has helped with knowing what the lyrics are like. But they're really Hot Snakes influenced, like post-punk, post-hardcore. And I really like them. They are, I love the Hot Snakes. They're like one of my favorite bands. Anything that John Reese has done, I'm a fan of. He's the guitarist in Hot Snakes, and he's in Rocket from the Crypt and Sultans and a bunch of other projects. But so they're like in the interviews I've read from them, they're like, oh yeah, we just love the Hot Snakes. Our goal is to sound like the Hot Snakes if they sang in Spanish. And so they have they put out their first record called what's it called? I'm already forgetting what it's called, and I was feeling so prideful of myself for knowing.
Well, you need notes.
Colapso Tropical is what it's called, and it's really good. I'd highly recommend to anybody. If you don't like the Hot Snakes, you should check them out too. And they're like, they put out a record last year or a couple years ago, and they put out some singles this year. So I think there was supposed to be a new record this year. I don't know if that's still happening or not, but in the meantime, listening to the Spanish Hot Snakes, Mundo Beta has been really good for me.
Cool.
My recommend is very recent, so I haven't listened to it that much yet. I've only listened to it once, but is the new War on Woman Warren Women are exactly what I need right now, which is just in your face feminist punk. And, you know, their music is obviously like very rah-rah. And yeah, after the politics of this past week, that was exactly what I needed. And I actually watched, they did like a listening party on YouTube where they like spoke about the album, and yeah, that was actually really fun. And I think particularly since they couldn't obviously have like a nice gig, again, as an international fan, I benefit from that. So, you know, that was really nice. So Warren Women, excellent. Do the thing.
For me, I think oh, sorry, go.
Oh, sorry. The cover of the Warren Women album is like it's like a rose with like a wolf mouth, right?
Yeah.
Is that what it looks like?
That's the one.
Yeah.
It's
That's
called,
what
sorry,
sounds
I just
like.
know what it was called. Wonderful Hell. I'm just like, everyone knows what I'm talking about. It's the new Warren Woman. It's amazing. Dude, like,
it sounds like
Wonderful Hell.
Hard. Oh, I was just saying, it sounds like a wolf biting you through a flower. Listening to that record, that was hard.
Yeah, it's a good record. For me, I've been listening to the new Get Dead a lot recently, following their live stream from Weekend at Fatty's, where they did like that live show at Fat Mike's house. That was pretty cool. And yeah, like the new Get Dead it's just really interesting. It's like lots of different styles coming together. I don't think I've been a fan of Get Dead like before. It's just, I think it was just one of the things that I started listening to in the last couple of weeks. And it's like, this is something I could get into. And like, I've really enjoyed like lots of really good songs, even though it's on a big label like Fat Records. I'm kind of sad I didn't pre-order the vinyl or order the vinyl. Like it's a record that I've sort of only gotten into post-release, which is new for me, but very good, very good.
Did you see the video that Fat Mike did, I think for Alternate Press, a few months ago, where he was talking about like the 30 or so most important Fat Wreck releases?
Yeah.
And this was before the Get Dead album came out, and he put it on there, which made me think I should probably listen to this. I haven't yet.
I mean, I don't want to make anybody mad, but like Fat Mike, I mean, I don't always agree with his opinions. I don't always agree with everything he says. He can be a bit Fat Mikey, I guess.
Whatever that means.
But like he does have. I mean, he obviously knows he's really good at what he does.
Yeah.
He knows what he knows. So.
Dan number 2 has also recommended me that Get Dead album. And not to offend too many people, but what you said about Fat Mike, Dan number 2, don't always agree with his opinions, but love him anyway.
Yeah.
Hopefully he'll hear that, and that'll be fun. Okay, so I've been listening to a band, or I don't think they're a band, there's just like an act, and he's called Dead in 4. It's like a solo, like indie, folky, poppy album by a band from Bedford in New Hampshire, not England, called Mark Oslord. And he's actually released like an EP and an album this year. And I found the EP first, like Bandcamp. Like you, I spend a lot of my time on Bandcamp looking for cool stuff. And it's not something I'd normally would attract me to it, but there's something about it. It's just like the guy's voice kind of reminds me a bit of Matt Skiba and a bit of M from a band from the UK called Nervous. And just the songs are just really like, I don't know what the word is. I'm better at writing words than saying them. Like a haunting, like atmospheric kind of thing, like sound, but it's like still a bit punky. And he's also released the album I've been listening to is called Walter Concrete, and recently he's also released an EP called Media Shower, which is a lot more like punk driven sort of sound. Because I was gonna go like review Walter Concrete, and I went on Bandcamp to get the lyrics, because bands, please put your lyrics on Bandcamp because it makes reviewing so much easier.
Yeah, it really does.
Please. But then I discovered, he's just released a new EP, so I should probably review that instead. So that'll be out on the site in a few weeks. But yeah, so Dead in 4, just a really, really good new act.
Nice.
Cool. Right. I think this is have we got anything else we want to talk about or plug or before we wrap this up?
Not for me.
Not for me.
Not here.
Okay, well, I'll plug Colin's Prog Rock World, where we all like write reviews and like do playlists and occasionally write the top 10s and columns. So obviously you're probably aware of this podcast because of that site, but please keep supporting it. And also CPRW Records, because we've I think we've raised nearly £2,500 for various charities since we started doing that. We'd like to keep making that go higher. So all support is very welcome and loved. So even if it's just sharing the site and telling your friends about it, that's amazing. So yeah, and that's it. Thanks to Brett, Robyn, and Marcus for joining us this afternoon or this evening in South Africa. Probably by now.
Awesome to chat.
It was so good to chat to you guys.
Yeah.
It's nice meeting everybody.
Yes.
Yeah, nice meeting you as well.
See you next time.
Yes, and so I'm recording the next podcast on Tuesday. There's a bit of a special one because I'm doing it with Mike and Paul from B Sharp, and we're going to talk about punk stuff. And I have realized doing this podcast is just a very good excuse to chat to my mates as well. So,
Yeah.
So thanks for listening or watching. See you on the next one. Stay safe and have a good rest of your day. Bye.
Yeah.
See you guys.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.